All right, so today we're diving deep into 1980s Hollywood, a real-life thriller
Yeah.
with a missing fortune, a ticking clock,
Mm-hmm.
and a whole lot of cocaine.
A whole lot.
This is gonna be good.
Yeah, we're looking at police reports, court documents.
Okay.
It goes way beyond just a simple heist.
Right?
It's the dark underbelly of Hollywood,
Yeah.
like ambition and desperation and dangerous choices.
And at the center of it all is Laney Jacobs.
Yeah, Laney Jacobs.
In 1983, she was living the dream successful cocaine dealer,
Wow.
making her way into the movie business, rubbing shoulders with all the right people.
Yeah.
But her world came crashing down when she returned from a trip to Vegas.
This Vegas trip, oh man,
Oh, yeah.
peak 80s excess,
Yeah.
private jets parties, fueled by mountains of cocaine.
Wow.
Mountains.
Okay, so she's playing in the big leagues.
Big leagues.
What happens next?
So she comes home from this wild weekend,
Yeah.
right, expecting everything to be just as she left it. And instead, walks into her house and finds her safes.
No.
Cleaned out
Yeah.
11 kilos of cocaine,
Yeah.
$270,000 in cash. Gone.
Wow. That's a serious hit.
Serious hit.
But it's more than just a financial loss, right?
Oh, yeah. Way more.
She was buying that cocaine on credit.
Exactly. And the sources we have paint a very clear picture
Okay.
of who Laney was dealing with.
Uh-huh.
A Colombian cartel
Oh,
with a reputation for being particularly unforgiving.
okay.
They didn't care about stolen goods. They wanted their money.
So now she's not just dealing with a major financial setback.
Right.
She's got a target on her back.
Huge target.
Talk about pressure.
And you have to remember the context. The war on drugs
Yeah.
was in full swing, law enforcement cracking down.
Okay.
Stakes were incredibly high for anyone involved in the drug trade.
So we've got a high-stakes robbery, a ticking clock, and the Colombian cartel
Yeah.
breathing down her neck.
Mm-hmm.
What does Laney do?
Well, the sources indicate that Laney wasn't exactly known for her patience.
So she's got a plan.
Yeah, she had a reputation for being ruthless.
Okay.
She wasn't about to sit back and wait.
Before we get into that,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do we know how she managed to move that much cocaine?
Right.
Was she flying it in using connections in the movie industry?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The sources are a little vague on the specifics of her operation,
Uh-huh.
but it's clear she had a sophisticated network in place.
Right.
She was definitely operating at a level above your average street dealer.
Hey, and the fact that someone was able to steal that much cocaine from her
Right.
tells you they had to know the ins and outs of her operation.
Absolutely.
This wasn't just some random break-in.
No, this was an inside job.
Oh.
Someone who knew where to look, when to strike, how to disappear without a trace.
And this is where that ticking clock really comes into play.
Big time.
She not only has to recover the stolen goods,
Yeah.
but she has to figure out who betrayed her
Mhm.
before the Colombians come looking for their money.
Exactly. And the sources hint that Laney already has someone in mind. Someone she suspects.
Oh, wow.
Someone she trusted.
That's just cold to have that much taken from you by someone you thought you could rely on.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
Betrayal is a recurring theme in this story,
Yeah.
Laney's world was one built on shaky alliances and shifting loyalties.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, who could she truly trust?
And that's where we'll pick things up in part 2.
Can't wait.
You're not going to want to miss this.
I'm dope.
So we've got Laney staring down the barrel of a very real threat. And she's got a suspect in mind, someone she trusted.
Mm.
Do the sources give us any clues about who this might be?
Yeah, they dropped some hints, like there was a lot of tension brewing in Laney's inner circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jealousy, paranoia, backstabbing. It was kind of all part and parcel of operating in that world.
Okay, so we're talking about someone in her inner circle, someone who knew her operation inside and out. Was it a rival dealer, someone trying to muscle in on her territory?
Yeah, that's certainly possible. The sources describe Laney as having a lot of enemies, people who would love to see her fall.
Right.
But it could also be someone closer to her.
Okay.
Someone who saw an opportunity to exploit her vulnerability.
Man, that's rough to think the person you trust most could be the one who sets you up like that.
It's a classic betrayal narrative, and it speaks to the inherent risks Laney was taking by operating outside the law,
Right.
in the criminal underworld. Loyalty is a fragile thing.
But Laney wasn't exactly a shrinking violet, from what we've learned. She was tough, resourceful, and definitely not afraid to use force to get what she wanted.
Right. The sources suggest she had a reputation for being as ruthless as anyone she was dealing with. She wasn't going to just roll over and accept this loss.
So what did she do? Did she go straight to the cops?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Yeah.
Remember, Laney was deeply embedded in the drug trade. Going to the police wasn't exactly an option for someone in her position.
Right. It would expose her whole operation and she'd be facing charges herself. So, what was her game plan? Did she try to track down the thief herself?
It's not totally clear. The sources are a little hazy on the specifics of her actions.
Okay.
What we do know is that she started making some calls,
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to her network of contacts,
Okay.
trying to piece together what happened and who might be responsible.
Okay, so she's working her connections, trying to find the culprit and the missing cocaine. But what about the Colombians they must have been putting the pressure on?
Oh, absolutely. There's a real sense of urgency here.
Yeah.
A ticking clock that's constantly reminding us that Laney is in a race against time.
Right.
One wrong move could cost her everything.
And this is where the story takes a bit of a turn, right? Because it's not just about recovering the stolen goods, it's also about this connection to a murder.
Right. The sources start to weave in this other thread, this seemingly unrelated case involving the murder of a Hollywood producer named Roy Radin.
The Cotton Club murder, didn't he own that club?
He did. The Cotton Club was this legendary nightclub in the 80s, a hot spot for celebrities, musicians, and, well, anyone with a taste for the high life.
So how does Laney's story intersect with this murder?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
On a surface, they seem completely separate, but the sources start to hint at a connection,
Okay.
suggesting that Roy Radin's murder might be somehow linked to the theft of Laney's cocaine and cash.
Okay, now that's intriguing. We've got a missing fortune, a possible betrayal, a ticking clock, and now a murder mystery thrown into the mix.
And that's just scratching the surface. The sources we have are just pieces of a much larger puzzle.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion, and with each layer, the story gets more complex and more intriguing. But we've got to take a break. We'll be back in a moment to dive deeper into this tangled web of crime, betrayal, and Hollywood secrets. All right, we're back, and we're trying to figure out this missing fortune, the potential betrayal, and the murder at the legendary Cotton Club.
Yeah, so the sources paint this picture of Roy Radin, the owner of the Cotton Club. He wasn't just a nightclub owner.
Right.
He was a Hollywood producer,
Okay.
someone who moved in the same circles as Laney.
So they might have known each other?
Yeah, possibly even done business together.
Okay.
The sources mention that Radin had this reputation for
Mm.
being shady, involved in some less than legal dealings.
Okay.
He was known to rub shoulders with some of the shadier characters in Hollywood,
Right.
including, those connected to the drug trade.
Okay, so we have Laney desperate to recover her stolen cocaine and cash. And we have Radin, this producer, with possible ties to the criminal underworld. How do their paths cross?
The sources suggest that Radin might have been involved in the theft of Laney's stash.
Hold on, are we saying that this murdered producer might be the one who stole from Laney, or that he was somehow involved in the setup?
It's a theory the sources explore. Remember, Laney's world was one of shifting alliances and betrayals.
Right.
It's not a stretch to imagine that someone like Radin, with his connections and his ambition, might have seen an opportunity to take advantage of her.
But if Radin was involved, why was he murdered? Does that mean whoever killed him also stole from Laney?
That's the big question. The sources don't give us a definitive answer,
Yeah.
but they offer some clues.
Right.
Apparently, Radin was in deep with some dangerous people, possibly even connected to the same Colombian cartel that Laney was dealing with.
So we're talking about a potential power struggle within the cartel. Maybe Radin double-crossed them and they took him out?
It's possible the sources suggest that the Colombian cartel was known for its ruthlessness and its willingness to eliminate anyone who crossed them.
Right.
If Radin got on their bad side, it wouldn't have ended well for him.
And this brings us back to Laney. If Radin was involved in the theft and then he's murdered, where does that leave her?
In a very precarious position, the sources indicate that she was determined to find out who was behind the theft,
Okay.
even if it meant getting mixed up in a murder investigation.
So she's not just trying to recover her stolen goods anymore, she's trying to solve a murder and possibly expose a dangerous criminal network.
It seems that way. The sources paint a picture of a woman who was pushed to her limits, forced to confront the dark reality of the world she was operating in.
Wow, it's like those layers of the onion we talked about are starting to reveal a much bigger, much more dangerous picture.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is that the sources leave us with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Did Laney ever find out who stole from her? Was she able to recover her money and cocaine? And what about the Colombian cartel? What role did they play in all of this?
It sounds like we've only scratched the surface of this story for anyone who wants to delve deeper into this tangled web of Hollywood crime, the Hollywood and crime. The Cotton Club Murder podcast is a must listen. They go into incredible detail about the investigation, the key players, and the events that led to Raiden's downfall. It's a wild ride, and it's a story that reminds us that sometimes truth can be stranger and more dangerous than fiction.
It also highlights the dangers of a world where ambition and greed can lead to devastating consequences. And it leaves us with this lingering question.
Yeah.
How far would you go to protect yourself when the stakes are that high?
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But the story doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the truth is out there waiting to be uncovered. We'll see you on the next deep dive.